This is Financially Fit Radio with Corey Sickles from Safe Harbor Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Corey provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Financially Fit Radio with Corey Sickles.
Welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Corey Sickles with Safe Harbor Retirement Group and Wealth Advisors. If you'd like any information from today's show, feel free to give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit our website at safeharboroh.com. And while you're on our website, feel free to check out that radio page. You can listen to previous shows, as well as subscribe to our show on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, or Spotify. Also, feel free to visit our YouTube page. Just type in Safe Harbor Retirement Group. You can watch today's show. You can watch other shows, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our Financially Fit tips, which are little shorts. We're producing about 3 or 4 of those a week as well, just to be able to make sure you're updated on different types of financial topics. We're here to address any questions that you might have about retirement. Just remember, every meeting that you schedule with us is complimentary. There's no financial obligation. We're here to help. Almost all of our shows have some type of financially fit tip, and we'll have a little bit of financial talk today. But really, what I kind of want to talk about is how do you actually have a happy retirement? It's going to be the other side of retiring. That is, hopefully you're financially stable, but there's other things to consider before you retire. I think it's a good way to figure out on how you're going to spend your time and make sure you enjoy it. But before we dive into that, let me introduce to you my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, how are you today?
Oh, I'm so good. And you know what, Corey? This topic?
Retirement will be a wonderful adventure, and we'll do it together.
Yes.
Retirement can be a wonderful adventure, right?
That is exactly right.
I had that one just waiting for the show today, Corey.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I had a great week. I kept busy. We were talking before the show. It was a busy week for me. Our editor and producer, Mitch, was out all week, so I had to do double duty. But you know what? Made it through, and it was a good week and just some good weather. I know you got away for a couple of days, so that was nice, huh?
It was. It's hard to believe we're already here in the middle of July.
I know.
Hopefully everyone had a good 4th. I can't believe summer's already going to be here. I mean, we're talking now, NFL and college is going to be getting ready here for fall camps, and
we're only a month away from preseason.
Yeah, I know.
Corey.
I know. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is nuts.
One thing I will say is this: sometimes it seems like days go long, but I tell you what, weeks, months, and years go by fast.
Yeah, as you get older too, and it just seems like they go by so fast. Yeah, months and years go by I've noticed months just you snap your fingers. Oh, what happened to June? Right, it's gone. Yeah.
Sometimes you think, man, this is the longest day, but before you know it, the next thing you're thinking of, it's already the end of the year.
Hours and days can drag on.
Yes, they can. They can.
We all know that. So that is an interesting concept. I know we talk about it, but it is just like every time we do a show, okay. Now all of a sudden we're doing a show and it's the middle of July. It's like, wow, what did I do last month? What did I accomplish? So, and retirement can be like that, but you want to have stuff to do during retirement. That's for sure. And I know that that's something you're going to talk about today, right?
Yeah. Let's just kind of get out of first of all, we'll just kind of talk about the financial side of it first real quick, right?
Sure.
And obviously one of the things that you need to be able to do to make sure you're going to enjoy retirement is you need to really plan ahead, right? We all need a plan of where we are today and where we're going to be going. And the best way to be able to enjoy retirement is not having to worry about whether you're going to run out of money. And if you have a solid plan, you're going to be able to know when you can retire, and you're going to be able to make sure that you can enjoy your retirement, right? We always talk about making sure you're diversified on your investments. And that's one thing, if you're working with an advisor, they're going to make sure you're diversified. But I think the two biggest things that I think people really have to focus on, Tony, is when you're working, a lot of people don't really have a budget. But when you're going to retire, now you kind of have to get into the details and say, how much money am I going to have, or how much money am I really going to need in order to pay my bills on an annual basis? Then when you're working with an advisor, we're going to be able to add inflation in there and some other things to be able to make sure that you're going to be able to, forget about the financial side of it. Because, if you're financially stressed, it's going to cause stress, which is going to cause issues, not only for you, but for you and your spouse, and potentially you and your family. So we want to make sure that you're going to budget wisely, make sure you have that solid income plan, always have an emergency fund. Hopefully, back in 2020 with COVID, I think hopefully people realize that you need to have an emergency fund. It's probably a little bit more important too when you are retired, because you're going to be going to a budget. The paychecks have stopped. It's kind of like Social Security, maybe a pension, but the rest of it's going to be coming from your investments, and things are going to happen. Right? I mean, if you own a home, your air conditioner can go out, or you might, you have a car goes out, you need to buy a car. And what you want to be able to do is make sure you have an emergency fund that's going to be there for you, so you don't actually just have to keep taking more and more money, out of your retirement savings. So one of the things you obviously can do is have a little bit of your budget go to that emergency fund to make sure you're constantly putting money into that.
Yeah, that's important. My wife and I are wondering how we need a new driveway, and we want to put a, whatever you call that, a side thing that goes up along the garage, a sleeve or whatever. And so I was going to call you and see where I could get that money. I'd rather take it out of one of your accounts for now, Corey.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure. But that does bring up a good point, though, Tony. Right? One of the things I do see when we're working with clients, and especially prospects that are getting ready to retire, is they're trying to get all those little projects done while they're working.
Yes.
Get that driveway in while you're working, because at least you have a constant flow coming in. So you have to take it from there rather than from your retirement accounts. Yeah. Right. So there's going to be all kinds of little things. Now, should you pay off your house? That's a discussion with an advisor. It depends on where you are, where that money's coming from. There's a lot of questions that kind of go into that. But people, always want to be able, that's one of always the questions. I pay my house off. And really, it depends on your financial situation, where you're taking that money out of. If you're taking it out of IRA accounts, it might not make sense, because it could put you in a higher tax bracket. You pay more taxes, and such. So, but that's always one of the things. And, obviously, the less debt you have going into retirement, the better situation you're going to be. And that's why I think it's so important to make sure that if you have a financial plan, then you're working with an advisor, and that advisor is going to be kind of give you that, say, hey, go ahead, you can retire, you can make it. And it's going to make you feel better and sleep better at night as well.
Right. Yeah, it is. Having the plan in place, a lot of it is just so you don't have to worry about it. Knowing that you don't have to worry about where the money's coming from each month in retirement is huge.
That's right.
And like you say, there are ways to start setting aside now, no matter where you're at. We always say, Corey, you always say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So get it done and start putting away and make sure you're on track. But the way to do that is to work with a financial professional like yourself.
Yeah, exactly right. And, we'll handle the financial standpoint, and it's just going to make you you're just going to be relieved knowing that you have a plan. Yep. We can modify it based upon what happens. Everyone's situation is different. So let's kind of dive into some of the other things now, Tony. And I think the first one will be one thing that I always say on the show is this: every day is a Saturday when you're in retirement.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
So you're spending money, right?
There's always that chance of being able to spend money. So how are you going to spend your day or days. Now you got 7 days to spend. Um, and it could be full days if if you're not working part-time or anything like that. And obviously I think one of the biggest things that you want heading in retirement, because this is probably one of the most important, and that is you want your health and your well-being to be as best as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
Right. You want to be able to make sure that you're active. You want to make sure, maybe, you're getting some type of exercise, you have a healthy diet, get regular checkups with the doctor to make sure everything is going right there. And, the other part that you need to be able to do also is keep your mental health going, right? Activities that's going to stimulate the mind, and such as puzzles, reading, learning new skills, going to college. A lot of colleges allow you to go in there for free. Maybe learn a new language or whatever you want to be able to do. But you definitely want to make sure that mentally you're going to be set as well, because let's face it, the longer that people live in retirement, there's a good chance that something might go, wrong with the mind as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you can stay mentally active, like you said, a lot of universities and colleges do offer seniors classes either very low or for free. You can sit in and audit or take classes. And I think that's a fantastic thing to do. Also, there's a lot of other activities to stay mentally active. So
Yeah.
that's important. That's what my grandfather said, who lived to 101. How do you do it? You got to keep going, not only physically, but mentally. He stayed active. He painted, he quilted, he did woodwork. He still worked as, took apart cars and tractors and put them back together and refurbished them well into his late 90s. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, your health and your well-being is so important. And here's the one thing that I don't think a lot of people realize is that, before you retire, some of the things we're going to talk about, you're actually going to start making a list of some of the things that you're going to want to be able to do. You kind of have to have a game plan on how you're going to spend your days. I love to golf, but I'm not going to golf 5 days a week, right? So that's going to give me, so I'm going to have to find ways to spend that time, during those days. Maybe I'm not golfing, or
Right.
if you do golf, it's only 4 hours of the day, maybe.
Yeah.
So you still have a lot of other things that you need to be able to think about. Right. And,
Right.
and a lot of it's going to be social, right? I think golf could be a good way to be social with other people.
Yeah.
But you want to be able to stay connected, not only with family and with friends. And, maybe you want to join some type of clubs or groups out there, or just like you mentioned a second ago, pursue other hobbies, right? Whatever maybe you've wanted to learn. Maybe you want to all of a sudden start playing the piano or playing some type of music instrument or whatever that might end up being.
And that keeps your hands and your mind active, and anything that does that is really helpful.
Yes.
Yeah. And you mentioned golf, pickleball also is another great sport that people can do in retirement.
I think a lot of people are starting to play that, right?
Yeah.
I remember when my next door neighbor retired, and they've actually now moved down to Alabama.
Mhm.
But when he first retired, his wife was a painter, so she painted a lot in the time, and he actually was always out and about. Well, he was working, right? And then one of the first things he started to do when he retired was started to play the guitar. And he was not good.
My grandfather painted paintings, and I have some of them. He would give them to us. They're not good. No, they're terrible. Yeah.
But and I sometimes I know his wife would just leave because she didn't want to hear it. Just because she had to get out of the house now.
Yep.
But he picked his days of he did it at the same time every day, so she knew that's when he was going to be practicing. And I'm sure he's a lot better now, because it's probably been 7 or 8 years that he's been retired now.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is that's something that he wanted to pursue. He started to do it, and it's something that he liked to be able to do. But just like anything else, when you do things like that, you're not going to be good at the beginning. But if you keep at it, keep your mind active, you're potentially going to get somewhere as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, my grandfather painted paintings, and at one point they were okay, but wow, they were
Yeah,
pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, but it's fun to pick up an instrument, and if you do it, work on it every day. After a couple of years, you're probably going to get better and decent at it.
sure. And maybe it's a different skill, right? Maybe you've always wanted to do different. Maybe you wanted to get into painting, like my neighbor
Sure.
did as well. But one popular one that I see a lot more people learning how to they're learning how to cook.
Oh
Um,
yeah, cooking.
yeah,
Yep.
that's cook. And I'm not talking about I'm talking about they're going out and doing Italian, or they're doing French, or they're doing whatever nationality they want to be able to learn.
Yeah.
Um, but that's another good thing to do. Obviously, you can spend as much money as you want by going to maybe France in order to do it, or I'm sure there's local things in the community where if you research, you can probably find some type of those just in in our case, in the Columbus market.
Yeah, I know there are local chefs and sous chefs that are really good at what they do. Some of the top chefs in the region, and they offer cooking classes.
Yeah.
Some good chefs offer cooking classes in each community. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, and obviously, if you have expertise in a field, now you can potentially volunteer um, at some of these things to be able to be the teacher. You can become a mentor of someone to be able to teach whatever you know to them. I
Yep.
mean, obviously, someone's going to want to be able to learn there as well. But I think the biggest part of all this is to write all these things down that you want to do, set some goals, and then go out and kind of do it. Um,
Yep.
I think it's going to give you some purpose. It's going to give you, obviously fulfillment as well. But I think it's just something that everyone should think about before you do retire.
Yeah.
Of some of the things that you do want to try to accomplish, from that standpoint.
Yeah. So I think that obviously is staying busy mentally. All the things you talked about are good mentally, but you also want to stay active physically. And you mentioned golf, and we mentioned pickleball, but the physical aspect is important too. Obviously, it's very critical.
Yeah, I go to I go to the gym too, Tony. 3 days a week, and
Yep.
um, there's what I would say. There's a lot of seniors in there that going through that same thing.
Yep.
Um,
My daughter drags me to the gym once in a while, but I get most of my workouts walking between the table and the pizza buffet, carrying that plate. It's heavy. I've really built up
yeah,
my.
yeah. Do you alternate arms?
Yeah, I alternate arms with the plates. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I build up both
You get those heavy
biceps.
plates.
Yeah,
That's what you need to be able to do.
but you have to. I mean, it is important to go to the gym and start during your working years. If you take care of yourself now, you'll have a longer and happier retirement, which is
Yep.
what we're talking about, right?
Sure. That's exactly right. And obviously when I sit down with anybody, and um especially for the first time, what do you want to do when you retire? And one of the first things that everyone's going to be able to say normally is, well, I want to be able to travel, right?
Yep, that's
That's
true.
that's always a big one. I'm going
Yeah.
to retire. I'm going to retire at 65, because I know from 65 to 75, I'm going to be able to go out and do stuff. So that's when I want to be able to go out and travel and be able to experience, new places and things like that. And obviously there's different, depending on what you want to accomplish. There's a lot to see here and do in the United States. Maybe you want to explore Europe, or maybe you want to, go to South America or Central America, or maybe even want to go to Asia or whatever that is. But obviously one of the things you're going to want to do is research and figure out what you want to be able to do. Maybe you want to go and be able to visit different cultures. So there's a lot of different types of experiences you can get from traveling. And in most cases, Tony, anymore, it seems like their kids are out of town too. So that's a travel experience in itself.
Yeah, true. You can travel around and see your kids. That's a great point. Or take the grandkids somewhere, to a
Yeah,
national park or Disney World, right?
that's exactly right. Well, it seems like that's one of the big things they love to do, is take their grandkids to Disney World for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one.
Well, and it ain't cheap, right?
Oh man.
Yeah, we just went as a family last year. Actually, this year it
Yeah.
was early this year, and wow, my mother-in-law paid for it, and I don't, we were trying to figure out what she ended up spending, and it's a scary number. It's a scary
Yeah.
number.
I mean, that's one of probably the most expensive experiences you can do with your kids.
Yeah, I mean, other than taking them to maybe Europe or Australia or
Sure.
something. Yeah,
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And and I think another big part of I think what a lot of people need to think about too, Tony, is where are you going to live? When you retire, that's when people really start thinking about downsizing, which is part of why I'm part of Downsize Columbus. And you can visit downsizecolumbus.com in order to see I think our next one's in September, where we put on a little bit of a show to be able to educate people on downsizing. But, a lot of people want to move to that one-story house, or another very popular one right now is moving to that 55 plus community area too, right?
right.
So you need to kind of figure out what you want to do from that standpoint. And sometimes people kind of do that and retire at the same time, right? So maybe you want to move out of state. I have more and more clients that are moving out of state. The nice part about it is from our standpoint is you can keep the same advisor you have anymore, because I think COVID had made, Zoom meetings more comfortable on a day in, day out basis to, to still keep that or maintain that relationship no matter where you are in the world. So, but that's definitely something I think people want to be able to think about too, is where do you want to live and what kind of community you do want to live in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Downsizing and where you want to live, that's a big part of retirement planning. And for a truly happy retirement, you want to start planning for that as soon as possible. And I know my wife and I, we're both in our 50s. We're starting to think about, hey, let's get a one level home, right?
Sure.
And let's, we're ready to move out of the split level. And now that the kids are gone, so we're starting to think about that as well.
Yeah, and that's something that in the Columbus market, Tony, there's not a whole lot of one level places. So
Same here. Yeah.
so that's why I think when you move into a lot of the 55 plus communities, they're probably going to have that for you.
Yes.
As long as there are locations that you can purchase at this point in time.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, and here's the last thing I kind of want to talk about too. Is as you kind of go through retirement, things change, and you just want to make sure that your financial and your legal planning is all in order too. We can handle your financial standpoint, but you're going to want to make sure that your beneficiaries are constantly updated. Make sure you have that will or trust in place. Work with an advisor and a legal professional that's going to make sure that you're going to avoid probate on all of your assets. It's going to go the way that you want it to. And that's really what your advisor should be, really preaching to you is let's get all this stuff in order. And then you can adjust it on an annual basis as things do change. But you want to make sure that all your assets go where you want it to go in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The legacy planning is a big part of it, and knowing that's set up and that you won't be leaving your loved ones in a bad situation is a huge part of this.
Yep.
So, and you want to work with somebody, Corey, that really can do all of these and looks at the whole picture, everything we've talked about today, and that's what you do for your clients, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And here's the nice part about this, Tony. If you have a plan and you've kind of thought about how you're going to spend your retirement, right? You're going to have a positive attitude.
Yep.
And attitude means so much to make sure that you're happy. And I think by being able to have a plan, being able to sleep better at night, you're going to have a positive attitude on retirement, which is going to not only make it more enjoyable for you, but it's going to make it more enjoyable for the people you're around.
Yeah, true. Good point. Exactly. Well, that's a good note to end on. How can our listeners get a hold of you, Corey?
Yeah, for our listeners out there, just give us a call at 614-760-0670. Or again, you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. Feel free to schedule a complimentary, no obligation meeting with us. We'll make sure that you have a financial plan in place to make sure that you have the retirement that you want.
All right, and that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio with our host, Corey Sickles.
Thank you for listening to Financially Fit Radio. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, contact Corey Sickles at Safe Harbor Retirement Group. Call 614-760-0670 or visit their website at financiallyfitoh.com.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.